Hey ARMY, you're watching this while still holding a tissue, aren't you? Because if you haven't cried watching this moment, then you haven't truly experienced the BTS World Tour Arirang concert in Goyang, April 9th, 2026. That date is not just another date. That was the day Goyang Stadium shook to its foundation. The day over 70,000 ARMY came together for one single purpose: to welcome home the men who once walked off this stage to serve their country. And among all the incredible moments of that night, there was one person who stole every single heart in that stadium. Park Jimin, everyone's bias. The man who can make you cry just by standing still. In this video, we're breaking down all the most epic and emotional moments from the opening night of BTS World Tour Arirang in Goyang, with a very special focus on Jimin, the prince of the stage who has finally come home to ARMY. So get comfortable, grab that tissue, and don't blame me when the tears start falling. Before we dive into the concert moments, we need to talk about context. Because if you don't know the backstory, you won't truly feel just how massive this is. Picture this. BTS, the biggest K-pop group in history, made the decision to pause their group activities to fulfill their mandatory military service. One by one, they left. Green uniforms, shaved heads, and a stage that suddenly fell silent. Jimin? He went through his service quietly. He didn't make a lot of noise about it. But ARMY always knew. Behind that silence, there was a fire that never stopped burning. And then, after years of waiting, the album Arirang arrived. A name with such deep meaning. Taken from a traditional Korean folk song that is hundreds of years old. A song about separation, about longing, about the journey home. Can you imagine a more perfect name for this comeback? Their first live comeback performance at Gwanghwamun, Seoul on March 21st, 2026 had already set the world on fire. But that was just the warm-up. The real thing was this: BTS World Tour Arirang. The largest world tour in K-pop history, spanning over 85 concert dates across 34 cities in 23 countries. And it all started right here. Goyang Stadium, Korean soil, their home. So yeah, this was not just a comeback. This was a resurrection. The day before the concert, Goyang was no longer just a city. It had become ARMY territory. Massive LED trucks, 7 meters wide by 3 meters tall, were driving loops around the Goyang Sports Complex. And what was on those screens? Jimin. Messages of support from Jimin's fandom, who had invested everything to celebrate their idol's return. At Daewha Station, the nearest subway station to Goyang Stadium, Jimin advertisements were displayed on 4 pillars near Exit 4. At GTXA Kintex Station, a massive lighting board lit up with the face of Park Jimin. Jimin's fans, who had already shown up in force during the comeback live at Gwanghwamun back in March, returned even stronger. They carried the same energy with a message that was simple but filled with love. We are always here. Outside the stadium, thousands of ARMY from all over the world, from Indonesia, from Brazil, from the United States, from Europe, stood in long lines. Nobody complained. Nobody gave up. Because at the end of that line were 7 men they had been missing for years. An 8-year-old ARMY held their ARMY bomb with both hands. A 40-year-old ARMY held the exact same lightstick. Young and old, from every corner of the earth, all united in one place. The stadium hadn't even opened its doors yet, but every single heart inside that crowd was already in there. And then, the stadium lights went dark. That alone was enough to send 70,000 people into hysteria. The sound of the Goyang, a traditional 12-stringed Korean zither, filled the entire stadium. On the massive screens, visuals of ancient Korean inkwash paintings, mystical natural landscapes, and a starlit Korean night sky played out. Then, the silhouettes of 7 men appeared on stage. An explosion of screaming. There are no other words for it. And when the spotlight landed on Park Jimin for the very first time, thousands of people stood up. No one gave the instruction. No MC asked them to stand. They stood because their hearts demanded it. Jimin on that stage was not just an idol. He was proof that the wait had been worth it. On the second night of the concert, as the open-roof stadium left everyone exposed to the cool night air, Jungkook asked the crowd if they were cold. And Jimin, standing right beside him, said something that brought the entire stadium to a hush before it erupted into cheers. It's been a long time since we've held a concert like this, Jimin said, his voice soft but perfectly audible because every single person in that stadium had stopped breathing. Along with the album, we've tried a lot of new things. We worked really hard on it, so I hope you enjoy it. Simple words. But in that context? In the context of years of separation, military service, and longing that had built up like a dam, those words shattered the emotional defenses of every army in that arena. The chant of Jimin, 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 rippled through the stadium like a small earthquake. Okay, now let's talk about the set list. Because that night, BTS didn't just perform songs. They told a story. The concert opened with a deep infusion of Korean aesthetics, the sound of the Goyang, ink wash painting visuals, the essence of tradition seeping into every corner of the production. Before a single pop beat dropped, they had already transported you to the very heart of Korean culture. Then came the songs from the Arirang album, Swim, They Don't Know About Us, Like Animals, Merry Go Round. Songs that most ARMY had only started learning a few weeks before, but were already able to sing from the heart. And then came the transition that absolutely broke the internet. FY, one of the new tracks from Arirang, transitioned directly into the legendary Fire. 2 songs, 2 eras, 1 unstoppable energy. On Twitter, the clip of that transition trended instantly with the caption, "They heard US, we got FYA 2 free transition, I am shaking crying throwing UPPP." But it wasn't over. The transition from Like Animals into 2018's Fake Love arrived next. 2 worlds, 8 years apart, colliding on a single stage. That wasn't just a set list. That was a love letter to the entire journey of BTS. And then came the moment nobody was truly prepared for. Dynamite, Butter, songs that once sat at the very top of the Billboard Hot 100. But that night, the meaning was completely different. It wasn't about chart positions. It wasn't about records. It was about memory. All of those moments during the pandemic when those songs became an emotional lifeline for millions of people around the world. When Jimin sang his vocal parts in Dynamite, his voice was exactly the same. Still that warm, still that pure, as if no time had passed at all. But time had passed, and that is precisely what made that moment both beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. But of all the moments that night, there was one that went instantly viral. One moment that even people who had never listened to BTS a day in their life felt something when they watched it. When BTS performed the song Arirang, the traditional Korean folk song that became the title of their album and this very tour, something truly magical happened. 70,000 people began to sing, together, in Korean. Not just Korean ARMY from every corner of the world. Fans who may have only learned the lyrics from a translation, sang along with every single word. Arirang, Arirang, Arario. Arirang Gogero Neomi Aganda. Those words are hundreds of years old. Korean ancestors sang them when saying goodbye to people they loved. And that night, thousands of people from across the entire earth sang them for 7 men who had once left and had finally come back. On Twitter, one ARMY wrote, "OH my God, ARMY's singing Arirang, just goosebumps." No sentence longer than that was needed. Jimin? He stood on stage, microphone lowered slightly. His eyes swept across the purple ocean of ARMY bombs. His lips moved gently, singing along. But his voice had already been swallowed by emotion. Some said he was crying. Some said he was smiling with tears in his eyes. Maybe both things were true at the same time. Because that is what happens when you come home, to the place where you are loved more than anywhere else in the world. But this concert was not all tears, by the way. There were also moments that reminded us that BTS is still BTS. 7 guys who are hilarious, warm, and have never forgotten how to make their fans laugh. Jimin, the worldwide handsome himself, decided he wanted to come down to the audience section even after staff warned him it was dangerous. His response? "It's okay, Gwenchana." He went down himself, did his own crowd control, and made sure everyone was safe. Because when it comes to ARMY, Jimin never compromises. V, also known as Taeyong, he showed up with a brand new eyebrow piercing that immediately caused Twitter to implode. Fans have been making fan art of Taeyong with an eyebrow piercing for a long time. And that night, he walked out and said, without saying a single word, "This is for you." Just the new look alone absolutely destroyed people's mental stability. And to top it off, V nearly slipped on the soaked stage after the water performance. He laughed while basically swimming in the puddles that had formed on the stage floor. Peak drama, but the kind only BTS can make charming. Jungkook. He spoke to a camera in the most tender, loving way imaginable, as if that camera was someone he adored. Every ARMY in the stadium became simultaneously jealous of a piece of recording equipment. And Jimin and V, the Vmin duo that has always had the power to completely dissolve ARMY's emotions, were caught by the camera in a moment that, as one fan on Twitter put it, was way too much for some fans to handle. A small, intimate moment between two lifelong best friends who were finally sharing a stage again. Jimin held V's hand. V turned and smiled. And that was enough to collapse the emotional walls of thousands of people watching. Okay, I want to be honest for a moment. As ARMY, or as anyone who truly understands the journey of BTS, this concert was not just about entertainment. Not just about great songs or breathtaking choreography. This was about a promise being kept. Years ago, when BTS announced they would be pausing their group activities to fulfill their military service, so many people asked, will they ever be the same when they come back? And the night of April 9th, 2026 at Goyang Stadium answered that question. They came back, more mature, deeper, but still exactly the same. 7 people who love this stage more than anything else in the world. Jimin has said before that what he missed most during their time apart was the shared moments. Laughing with the other members, sharing a stage, looking out at ARMY from above. And now he has all of that back. The album Arirang, a name borrowed from a traditional Korean song of farewell, became, in the end, a song about coming back together. A beautiful irony, a circle that has finally closed. For ARMY around the world who stayed up all night streaming, who planned and saved to buy tickets, who learned Korean lyrics even though it was never your first language. This moment belongs to you too. Because ARMY has never been limited by geography. And BTS has always known that. Now let's talk about the question sitting in the back of every ARMY's mind right now. When are they coming here? The BTS World Tour Arirang has already announced over 85 concert dates across 34 cities in 23 countries. This tour will run throughout 2026 and into 2027. The good news is that Asia is very much on the list. Not every Southeast Asian city has been officially announced in the initial schedule, but HYBE has signaled that additional dates will be added, including in Southeast Asia and the Middle East. So ARMY, keep your eyes locked on official announcements from HYBE and Big Hit Music. Follow their official accounts, turn on notifications, and get yourself ready. And while you wait, listen to the Arirang album. Absorb every single song. Because when Jimin finally stands on a stage in your city, you want to be able to sing every single word alongside him. So that's it, the most epic and emotional moments from the opening night of the BTS World Tour Arirang in Goyang. Jimin is back, BTS is back, and the world feels just a little bit better because of it. If you watch this video while crying, completely normal. If you watched it while smiling to yourself, also normal. And if you watched it while doing both at the same time, welcome to life as ARMY. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with every ARMY who needs a serotonin boost today. Drop it in the comments. Which moment hit you the hardest? I read every single one, I promise. And to Jimin, Park Jimin, if somehow, in some universe, you end up watching this, thank you for coming home. ARMY has always been right here waiting for you. See you in the next one, ARMY. Purple you. Purple heart.